Hello. Good evening or good night, whatever it is. Welcome back to the Michael Sisco show. I think this is the latest stream I've ever done, an exception for my New Year's Eve psalm reading. So welcome back. I'm setting up Entropy now, making sure that's all good. But if you're awake and watching, I'm very happy to have you. It's been one of those weeks. I intended to stream yesterday, and that didn't happen. I took a nap, and I didn't wake up. And then I wanted to stream earlier today, and I just got too busy working on some other things. So, anyways, hopefully we get some people in here. Not my usual times, so maybe I should say something in Telegram. Let everyone know that I'm live. So I think maybe my viewers are asleep now. That's just everyone's sleeping. Nobody wants to watch. I'm wide awake though, which normally I'm getting pretty groggy by now. So, anyways, if you're watching, say something, comment. But anyways, today I want to talk about, I made a post about how secularism is a myth, and it got some play on Gab, especially after I was reposted by Andrew Torba. So my Gab's been crazy ever since that happened last night. When I looked at my phone at about 7 o'clock tonight, I had 1,300 notifications from Gab. So that's been going crazy. But secularism, many people think that we live in a secular society, that our government and our culture is mostly secular. But that's not true. You see, and I've talked about how the original settlers of our country were Christian. And of course, we know that they were Protestants. But they came here for religious freedom, and they wanted to establish Christianity on this continent. What's going on, Brandon? God be with you. What's up, Hamish Ferguson? So they came here and they were Protestants, and many of them, especially I think the Pilgrims up in New England, were Puritans. And this was a problem. This is a deeply rooted problem, and most of what we're seeing now with the progressive American civic religion is the logical conclusion of Puritanism. It's interesting to note that Harvard was originally a Puritan seminary. But at some point, the God part left Puritanism, and it just morphed into American progressivism. And you can see, what does Harvard teach now? What does the entire Ivy League system teach now? Well, it's modern progressive ethics, right? Thanks for the 07s. What's up, Luke Kindrat? Good to have you in the chat. And Lowen, good to have you too. I haven't heard from you in a while. You should call me sometime, bro. Call me. And if anyone wants to super chat over $20 tonight, you can call in. Call in and chat. But so we have Harvard, which was a seminary, and I would argue it still is a seminary. It is a seminary for the progressive American religion. So, and you can look at their behavior. They basically, I'm sure all of you are familiar with like the Salem witch trials and how the liberal, well, not the liberals, how the Puritans would basically enforce blasphemy laws, and they had a strong culture of shame. Oh, Jay Dyer's streaming now. Wow, I have terrible option. I figured I'd be okay since Fuentes isn't streaming tonight, but yeah, I guess the Jay Dyer crowd's gonna be watching Jay Dyer, and who can blame them? Who can blame them? We love Jay Dyer. But anyways, so you can look and see that the mob basically still behaves like Puritans. Their dogma has morphed. God is removed from the equation, but the behavior, the religious behavior is still the same. So it is a competing religion. You can see the enforcement of their ethics and their values through censorship, through shaming, basically by attaching scarlet letters to people with various labels, which we see this happen to, well, really all of us. It's happening now to all of us ortho bros that stream. You know, it's happened to Luke. It's happened to Jay Dyer. It's happened to Michael Witkoff. We all have these hit pieces, these scarlet letters that are basically discouraging people from associating with us. Pat asked, what's the difference between Orthodox, Catholic, and Protestant Christianity? Well, that's probably for another stream, honestly, Pat. But if I were you, I would. Yeah, Ray, the shirt doesn't fit, but I got it from the thrift store, so what can you expect? So, and actually, I mean, it's okay. It's just not tucked in, so it gets a little loose. But Pat, I would recommend going into Jay Dyer's Discord if you could find it, and it's the Orthodoxy Discord channel. A good place to ask that question. So always someone in there that can help. But I guess if we're making a long story short, Orthodoxy is the New Testament church. The Catholic Church schismed from us and added to the faith, and then Protestants they kind of just stripped everything away when they split from the Catholics. So that's probably not a sufficient answer, but anyways, so we are meant to be in communion with God, and so when we reject formal religion, basically what we do, and certain groups who come from, let's say, more religious ancestry tend to do this very radically. And I won't say who, we can't say who because we're on YouTube. But when we reject formal religion, our ideology, we appropriate religiosity onto a political ideology. So, and a lot of people, especially from a certain, some groups in particular, they gravitate towards radical leftist ideology. And sometimes people do on the right. So, I mean, but basically, we have these like third rail topics that are heresy. They're considered heresy against the American civic religion. And you can't, anytime you espouse an opinion that undermines the civic religion, well, then you're branded a heretic. And instead of calling you a heretic, in our system, they're going to call you names that will give you that scarlet letter within the framework of liberal democracy. So they're going to call you a Nazi. They're going to call you a white supremacist or an anti-Semite or a far right or a radical extremist. One of these words, basically what they mean is, because they don't really have they don't mean what they appear to mean on surface value. What it really means is you're a heretic. You're a heretic from the American civic religion. You don't believe our underlying assumptions. Therefore, you're a heretic. That's what it means. So if you challenge the underlying beliefs and assumptions of the liberal democratic order, which is progressive, and it's both parties. The Republican Party is basically the progressive party in slow motion, basically the outer party, kind of like in Orwell's, what's that, 1984. It's just the opposition party that's kind of just there to be the opposition party for the dog and pony show. But the Democrats and the left, well, they're the logical conclusion of the progressive American idea. So, which is why the Republicans are constantly caving on the issues and just are liberals from 10 or 15 years ago. But the antidote and the correction to this problem that is rooted basically in Puritanism, the Protestants who came here and founded Harvard Seminary, which is now still a seminary, the correction is orthodoxy, the fullness of the Christian faith. And what I wish more, I guess, left-leaning Orthodox people would understand is that progressivism is a competing religion that is at direct odds with the Orthodox faith. Yes, Hamish, Republicans are indeed moderate progressives. Michael of St. Joseph says, America is a Freemasonic experiment and a Protestant heresy. Yeah, I mean, certainly after a certain point, yeah. Like I've talked about the dual foundings. The first founding is the Christians coming here hundreds of years before the Declaration of Independence and whatnot. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Ray says left-leaning or Orthodox hurts to hear. Well, that's because it's really incompatible with orthodoxy. Or St. John of Kronstadt said orthodoxy is inherently a conservative and traditional religion. So you cannot be liberal. It's not compatible with your faith. And I don't want to go as far as to say that like a Democrat that happens to be Orthodox, I don't want to judge them because they could just be naive. We don't know how far along in the faith somebody is and whatnot. Now, libertarians, on the other hand, I totally judge them because if you're a libertarian, well, there's really not much hope for you, and you're probably, most certainly, going to rot in hell. Brandon says, so conservative appeals to the founding principles are inherently flawed, built on the Enlightenment liberalism of America's origin. True. Might get trouble for, But the fact is, you cannot mix the American civic religion with Christianity. You can't. And if you're Orthodox and you apply Orthodox principles in politics, well, that's going to make you a reactionary. It's going to make you, and within the paradigm of our system, of our politics, it's going to make you a right-wing reactionary. And I know Michael of St. Joseph just said kind of useful misnomers. You're correct, but it also is useful in helping to understand where you're going to be viewed within the political paradigm of America. But you're right, you're correct, because your beliefs are going to be outside the framework of the acceptable bounds. You're going to be rejecting the Enlightenment principles. You see, the Enlightenment principles which our nation was founded upon are a direct rejection of the metaphysical Christian worldview that existed before the Enlightenment. And it still exists because it's eternal. It's the eternal truth. So all of the philosophical ideals that are contrary to the metaphysics, to Christian metaphysics, and the reality of the faith and the eternal church and the hierarchy and the human and the nature that Christ, that God, the Word, has established, well, you are outside of the system. You are in direct conflict with the progressive vision, which is the logical conclusion of the founding Enlightenment principles of this country. And not a popular thing to say, and probably not the best for someone who's running for office to say, but on the same note, if you're a Christian, you're also not a seditionist. And so we have this system, and it's here for us to use for our benefit. Looks like the chats are pretty active. Brandon says, seems they put freedom and reason over God and morality. Yes, they do. Ray says, honestly, knowing the root of what made America, it's only by God's grace that we lasted this long. Yeah, well, I mean, at least part of the reason why is because it took decades to dismantle the most important unit of society, which is the family. The sexual revolution started in the 1920s, and we haven't really seen between the feminism that started then and the attacks coming from the LGBTQ and the transgender movement and the depopulationist movement, all these different, it took decades and a lot of power and a ton of propaganda, and it took all of that to finally do enough damage to break down, because the nuclear family is it's very powerful. It's the most powerful thing it's the most powerful unit of humans in the world. Lowen says, the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. Treaty of Tripoli, unanimously ratified by the U.S. Senate and signed by John Adams in 1797. True. But I can still say we are a Christian nation because, like Brandon points out, it was founded by Europeans that had Christian traditions dating back centuries. So it's been 300 years of undoing all of that. And it took a long time, really. It really did. It took a long time. But yeah, you have to differentiate the difference between the nation and the government. They're two different things. They're two different things. We are a Christian nation. And the government can't change that, no matter how hard they try. But in other news, apparently myself and Jay Dyer and Luke Kindrat and I guess Witkoff and probably, what's his name? Probably David Patrick Harry. We're all being monitored, apparently, by an OCA priest. So hopefully not Lowen's priest. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not his. But somebody sent Luke a message saying that his priest was monitoring us because we're too groiperdox. Groiperdox. And so my question to this priest is, are you monitoring us through the lens of orthodoxy, the Gospels, the apostles, and the church fathers? Or are you monitoring us through the lens of the progressive intelligentsia? That's my question. Because, frankly, I'm monitoring the OCA, and I have been for quite some time. And I know a lot of great OCA priests, Lowen here, who disavows you, whoever you are. Lowen has a great priest who's based in Red Pill. But, frankly, there's a lot of progressivism that is being pushed through the OCA. Dialogue with the homosexual issue, which we all really know it's not dialogue, okay? So I think maybe you should turn your attention to some of the just anti-orthodox things that are happening in your church, in the OCA. Or perhaps you're naively just taking gossip and smears at face value, which if that's, you may not be as, I guess, plugged into politics as some people are. And if that's the case, then I can kind of understand it if you read an article that has some allegations of, say, like white supremacy or whatnot, then I could understand. And if I did believe that that the white race should reign supreme over the other races or whatever, or was like a race worshiper or something like that, then perhaps I would be worthy of I would be deserving of reproach, and I would certainly be in need of repentance on that issue. However, none of that's true. None of that's true. I believe that we are all created in the image and likeness of God, and we are one in Christ with our brethren in Christ. So, and if that is the case, that you're just taking these things at face value, then you believe what you've read, and you're concerned that we may be, I guess, radicalizing other Orthodox people into becoming anti-Semites and racists. If that's the case, well, maybe you could reach out to me personally, like a man, like a leader, like a priest would. Maybe you could do that. And also, you could take note that I'm not your jurisdiction, dude. I'm not for you to monitor. My priest and I, we don't always agree on politics. My priest is conservative, but we disagree on some things. But everything I do, either politically or in my show, I have a blessing to do it. So, and my bishops aren't your bishops, bro. Well, Father, I should be more respectful. Father, my bishops are not your bishops. My bishops like me, and so frankly, I don't care whether your bishops like me or not. It's I've been blocked by Archbishop What do you say his name? Epidiphoros? Is that how you say it? I know he's Go Arch, but he might as well be OCA. You might as well. Am I allowed to go to an OCA parish now? Am I still allowed in? I know. Ray says, I have a soft spot for the OCA. That was my first church. But man, they're too deep in the slump. I actually like the OCA. I think the OCA is salvageable. There's a lot of good priests. I know there's some good people in seminary there. So, it is what it is. I think it's salvageable, so we have to get some based Groiperdocs to join the OCA and go to seminary and infiltrate with the Groiperdocs. Groiper. So, Doorman 360 says the OCA should clean up its own house and get rid of the cabal of priests who run it. I think really, honestly, some of it's the bishops. Michael of St. Joseph says, gossip is so destructive. I've seen it. I never want to speak ill of someone behind their back. Yeah, you should just message me, Mr. Priest. Priesty Poo. My email is literally on my Twitter. It's everywhere. You can get a hold of me. I'm pretty accessible. Ray says, you got blocked by Father Barnabas too. It sucks because I like him. I like Father Barnabas. He re-added me on my new account. So it's just the guy. He can't break his. He's conservative. He has good takes. He's the real deal when it comes to an Orthodox priest. But he's in a tricky situation because his bishops and Go Arch are liberal and do not share his Orthodox values. They support abortion. They support Black Lives Matter. They apparently think that combating climate change is like an Orthodox virtue. They're leftists. They're liberals. And he just can't come to grips with the fact that Go Arch is just a lost cause. And I think his familial, I know his wife is Greek, his family's Greek, so he's not willing to part ways because of his familial ties, which I think is ultimately not a good thing. Doorman says bishops actually run ROCOR, unlike the OCA. Yeah. Ray says, is Go Arch salvageable? No. Lowen says, yeah, my parish is OCA, but one of the good ones for sure. My priest's father was a priest, so he has a path to tread. It's a loyalty issue. I can affirm that Lowen's parish is awesome. He was also blocked by the Greek Archbishop. Michael of St. Joseph says, wait, what? Orthodox clergy supports abortion? I've never seen someone go that far. I wouldn't really call them Orthodox clergy because if they're Go Arch, well, they're schismatic. at this point, they're schismatic. So, I mean, that's. I'm willing to say that. I'm willing to go there because it's just true. It's true. I'm going to check Entropy real quick. No Entropy chats. Wow, guys, really? You guys don't want us? You don't want me to eat this month? You don't want me to eat? No groceries for Michael. I'm going to have to get food stamps because no Entropy chats. No Entropy chats. Anyways. Doorman says, Go Arch is still Orthodox. We have to wait for a council. Let's not be Donatist. Well, I'm not allowed to commune there. So I was kind of being tongue-in-cheek, Lo, and I wasn't being super serious. But, no. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a synod soon, a holy synod with Rokor. I mean, with Russia, the Russian Patriarchate. And we'll see what happens, but the Ecumenical Patriarch is out of his mind, and so is Epidiphoros. And most of the bishops of Goarch. So, now, they're not technically schismatic, but they should be. They're heretic. I mean, they're not Orthodox. They're heretics for sure. Hamish Ferguson says, "Do you see a time when the Orthodox Church goes off the rails in a way similar to that of the Roman Catholic Church, or is it not possible in your paradigm?" Well, it's not possible mostly because of the structure of the church. Because of the conciliar nature of the ecumenical councils, for one, I believe that we are actually the true church, presided over and preserved by the Holy Spirit. But aside from that, to change any of our dogma officially, a ecumenical council of all the patriarchs, the heads of all the Orthodox churches, and all the bishops would have to get together for an ecumenical council and agree to change these things or to change canon law or whatever. And it hasn't happened for 1,000 years. It's highly unlikely. So between the fact that are presided over in truth by the Holy Spirit, and it's just not likely to occur anyways because of the way that the church is structured, which I think was a divinely inspired thing to prevent that. It's not ever going to turn into what the Roman Catholic Church has. Of course, obviously, we do have our problems, such as what we were describing with we do have heretics. I mean, heretics have been with us since the beginning of the church, and they operate from within the church, but they ultimately get condemned as heretics. So sometimes posthumously, like Origen. Ray says, "I want us to be in communion with the Oriental Orthodox already so I can have an Ethiopian or Coptic wife." Well, that's disgusting. Stephen Sasser says, "The gates of hell will not prevail." That's true. Brandon says, "Many cute Coptic girls would need the chrismate to the EO." Objectively false. I lived in Egypt for a year. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. There are some cute Coptic girls. But the Syrians and the Lebanese girls, that's where it's at. The Lebanese girls, yeah, let's go. We need to convert them Maronite girls. That's what we need to do. The Maronites, come to Ortho, denounce the Pope. The Pope is not your bishop, boo. Hey, Ray says, "It's disgusting to you because you don't like..." Don't like what, Ray? Don't like what? I'm not going to read that. I'm not getting caught. Not getting caught. All right, let's read this. Yes, super chats. Let's try to read them in order. Doorman 360 USD $20. Thank you. I've been hitting this topic recently. I can give an account of my experience with the OCA. Well, since you gave $20, you can call in to the show. I will drop the link shortly in the chat. Brandon Diebert says, gas money for liturgy, $10. Appreciate it, bro. I will actually be coming to your parish on Sunday again. So I think I'm basically making your parish my parish. So, look who the cat drug in. Faye Fotini. Greek girls are always the best. Well, we can agree to disagree. Just kidding. You're not the cat. You weren't dragged in by the cat. But anyways, I'm going to. We got a little bit of news to get into that we can that I wanted to cover. But I'm going to drop the link to the chat if you want to come on the show. You can come on for $20 via Entropy Chat. So I'm dropping the link, but you're only coming on if you give me $20. Faye says, yeah. Keep talking. Just kidding. I'm just salty because of the Greek girls that I dated. JK. All right. Well, I am about to. Let's get into the news. Man, we might be streaming all night long. Having too much fun today. Where's this screen share? Is it up? Here we go. We're going to start with this story from the National File. It's quite amusing. Gay BLM activists arrested and charged with cat torture and murder. Blamed police racism for arrest. Rashad Gober, a gay BLM supporter, is seemingly blaming his arrest and charge of animal cruelty for torturing 3 different cats on police racism. Cambridge police announced the arrest of Gober, 31, at his home on Thursday and charged him with 4 counts of animal cruelty, dating from March to May of this year. The investigation was initially opened after the discovery of a cat called Gosha on May 6, who was huddled underneath a car with her legs bound by masking tape. Further analysis on the deceased cat found a large percentage of her fur missing, also concluding that she had been shot repeatedly with a BB gun, with officers concluding that she had been the subject to cruel torture. The investigation then discovered 2 further cases of animal cruelty that they linked together, including a BB gun being used to wound a cat called Tammy. I love that they named the cats. On March 3rd and 4th, who survived. In the case of Buddy, on May 5th, who had suffered chemical burns. How do they know the cats' names? Is it like cat pin? I don't know. Post on social media show an account under Gober's name stupidly claiming that he had rescued Buddy after seeing him injured in his yard and saving his life, which may have put him on the radar of authorities. Further posts under his Facebook account show he even claimed to have lost a cat who was tortured in the same way he allegedly tortured his feline victims. Further evidence was discovered by maintenance man Dana Petrillo, who found open cat food containers and bowls of milk spread out through the apartment in each room of Gober's first-floor apartment, seemingly to lure as many cats as possible to their death. There was cat food cans open in the yards right near the barrels and a camera over there facing the barrels like he was trying to catch a cat, he said. Video footage from Gober's landlord also showed a trail of cat food leading to his apartment door. Petrillo connected Gober to the cat torture case after seeing a flyer regarding one of the cats. Google search results taken from Gober's phone show that he repeatedly looked up the best ways to torture cats, with queries including ways to torture a cat without killing it, what happens if you throw bleach on a cat, cat chemical burn, sounds to lure cats, and keeping a cat hostage. Despite Gober being into cat torture, he portrayed himself as a proud supporter of BLM on social media, making Archbishop Epidimoros, I can't say it, Faye, pronounce it for me, even making him proud. Go Arch is very proud right now, that's what I'm trying to say. Even going so far as to write himself a mock obituary in 2016, imagining himself being killed by a racist white police officer. Photos show him in t-shirts supportive of the LGBTQ community with slogans such as "Why be racist, sexist, homophobic, or transphobic when you could just be quiet?" In a series of tweets, a few days before his arrest and charge, potentially at the time of his questioning, Gober attempted to blame the actions of the police on racism, not the fact that he had clearly behaved suspiciously enough to be called in. "I seriously hate Boston," Gober tweeted. "This is the most racist place I've ever lived, and I grew up in South Carolina." He proceeded to describe Cambridge police as the most incompetent group of insecure pieces of shit that I've ever encountered, and said they should be ashamed of themselves. Reports even emerged that the white liberal community who had got played by Gober even seemingly contacted Massachusetts State Representative Mike Connolly, a radical anti-police BLM supporter, on his behalf. According to online posts, Connolly then went out of his way to get in touch with Gober and assure him he would be able to fight for him against the seemingly racist police. One of those who reached out to Connolly was Buddy's owner himself, Craig Garvin, who in a statement said that he had made us feel sympathy for you when you reached out to us with a moving story about how a raid by the police had left you distraught and emotionally damaged, adding that it was obvious from these deceptions that you wanted a larger impact than just the harm of an animal. If convicted, Gober could face up to 7 years in prison and a fine of $5,000, as animal cruelty is a felony crime in Massachusetts. Man, what a story. What a story. Brandon says, imagine not being homophobic. So true. So true. All right, looks like we got Doorman 360 coming in. So let's bring him on. Let's see. You gotta mute it, Doorman. You gotta turn your volume down, bro.
Hey, are we here? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. But I'm hearing an echo. Do you have your volume up?
That's weird. I have headphones on.
So it's all good. Oh, hey, we got Based Homeschool Mom in the chat.
I'll just rely on StreamYard. Just hold on. Okay, how are things now?
Much better, I think.
Oh, I can't hear here. Let's see here. I think I have StreamYard's muted. That's why I can't hear.
Hmm.
That's a shame. Why don't I try this one more time? Maybe I should just step out and try again.
All right. Well, I'll see you in a second. All right. So no doorman until it comes back. So we'll see. We'll see if he gets his tech together. So, but welcome to the chat-based homeschool mom. Good to have you back. Ray says he's going to J Dyer now. Well, hey, it's not my fault that Doorman 360. But I mean, if I were you, I'd be watching J Dyer right now. Why would you watch Michael Sisco over J Dyer? I mean, you know. Faye, are you offering? He says you'll help me and Patrick with our Greek. Catalavino ligo alimika. Ohi bolikala. But I'll speak Greek with you, Faye. Yeah, Ray. Did you not watch my show last week? Base Homeschool Mom was literally the guest, okay? Where even have you been, Ray? What are you doing? It was a good show, too. It was a good episode. Let's see. Check Entropy Chats. However, in Base Homeschool Mom, if she doesn't send a really big Entropy Chat tonight, I'm not sure if we can ever have her back on. Not sure. No, I think it was more of a issue with Base Homeschool. I mean, with the Doorman 360's audio, I think. So, but anyways, let's. Oh, looks like he's back. So let's see if this works.
I still can't hear myself. Can't hear you either. You know, it's gotta be. Let me change the audio device. Let's try this one.
Weekly line.
I hear you. Can you hear me?
Doorman. I can. So what's going on, bro?
Okay.
You said you wanted to talk about the OCA today?
Yes. So the OCA.
Let's do it.
So I was received into the Orthodox Church of the OCA, and I had to leave for reasons unreal. Originally, I wanted to be correct, get a corrective baptism. So that wasn't my original reason for leaving due to its liberal nature. But what was the final straw for me for leaving the OCA that finally made me say, you know, screw my connections, screw my quote unquote loyalty to this jurisdiction. Because look, we all get loyalty when we get, you know, when someone takes us in. The reason I decided to leave was I found out that basically the OCA has various levels of mingling with various Oriental Orthodox sects. So I'm not going to get too much in specifics of it, but I found out that a particular parish that I knew I had been to was allowing the communion of various Oriental Orthodox folks, you know, people who go to their seminaries. There's 2 seminaries they have, and they both accept Oriental Orthodox. This includes St. Tikhon's. They don't advertise it. They don't talk about it, but they do it. I've heard, let's say in a group of 20 students, they allowed 9 of them. Not like 9 of them. So it's like almost 50% of their students are Oriental Orthodox. So they're actually like raising heretics. They're preparing heretics, heretical priests. So when I found out that connection, that's when I said, I'm done. And I went to Roll Corps. Like that was the last step, because at that point, they betrayed the faith, you know. That's not to mean that they're not a legitimate Orthodox church or Orthodox branch. They're recognized by Moscow Patriarchate and Roll Corps, although that's kind of unwillingly. They don't like, Roll Corps doesn't like OCA, but they still recognize them. They'll celebrate. So, but that's at least the first half of my little experience with them. is that they're very, very cozy with, Oriental Orthodox. It's St. Vladimir's, they're a little more cavalier about it, but with St. Tikhon's, which had the reputation of being more conservative, I only found out they were doing that with St. Tikhon's recently, and so I was really heartbroken about that. So that's like we can complain all about the liberal nature of various clergymen. That's all fun and good. It's always fun to dunk on the liberals, even if they're on our side. But like Father Seraphimos says, we shouldn't cut ties with the liberals. It helps us keep us grounded. However, when you start communing heretics, that's something we can't tolerate. It just cannot be tolerated. I don't really have anything else to add to that particular phrase.
Yeah, so these are actually seminarians they're like Oriental Orthodox seminarians there.
Yes, yeah. So that's what they're bringing up. So I've recently been in contact with a prospective seminarian who's dug into this information. He was from the OCA. I managed to convince him to come over to. Well, he was going to come to ROCOR anyway, and I told him, dude, you should come to this ROCOR parish. Because if you're going to go to a ROCOR seminary, you might as well make the change now, and go to a ROCOR parish. So this guy told me a lot of the inside baseball that was going on with St. Tikhon's, and it's. According to him, I'm not going to name drop him, but he mentioned like his speculation is, I think it's twofold, right? There's a practical element to this, and then there's the glow in the dark element. Because I think, look, we know El Depiforos, we know that guy. He's so glowing. He glows in the dark so bright you can see him from outer space. Like that guy is obviously a Fed, but or has Fed connection to Fed asset, whatever. But so one element, and this is what this prospective seminarian told me. He's like, hey, look, I think that the issue was money. They have two of these facilities, two seminaries, technically three, but really just two that matter in this case. The third one's in Alaska, so it's kind of like its own little thing there. But these two seminaries, they're actually relatively close to each other. Like I live in Jersey, I can drive to both of them, like pretty easily. Not a comfortable drive, but like St. Vladimir's is really close to me. Really close. I think it's like a 45-minute drive. I hate that place, by the way. I can't stand that place. Every time I give St. Vladimir's money, I feel dirty. But doesn't mean everything doesn't mean that the stuff they publish is all bad. But I can't stand that place. Very liberal place. But he says an issue that they had was, hey, Orthodoxy isn't that big. We have two seminaries, so our choices are. We shut one of them down, and St. Tikhon's was the one that was, according to him, was the likely candidate because they have a monastery there, so they can still keep the ground and have a function. Well, while St. Vladimir's has no monastery associated with it, and it's very university feeling to it. So that was their plan. But the other element is they can expand their clientele, and here's a key thing. I don't know a lot, as I didn't know this. Apparently, GoArch also trains up Orientals. They accept Orientals, and so GoArch is, according to this guy, 3 times the size of the OCA, and they have one seminary, which deals with the whole lack of Orthodox folks in America. Well, how do you deal with that? Well, you only have one facility, so they all filter in there. It's a pretty smart strategy, right? That way you can afford the facility because all your customers are going in there. So, and apparently inside that structure, they allow Oriental Orthodox. So they raise up Oriental Orthodox seminarians and make priests. So these heretics are coming out of our facilities. So what they did is, my room's a mess. Sorry, boss. So with OCA, they decide, hey, why don't we just do what GoArch does, and we just accept these heretics and start raising them up on, and that's what they've done. So we are pumping out heretical priests, as in the Orthodox Church is has these facilities or pumping out heretical priests.
I'm sure that's not happening in Jordanville, though.
No. I've been to Jordanville. Jordanville is a fantastic place. Very, very good, very solid. In fact, that's one of the reasons this fellow I'm referencing here. He was going to go to St. Ticon's, found out what they were doing there. He was shocked because they don't advertise it. They don't bring it up, but it doesn't matter whether they advertise it or not. The bottom line is that they're doing it. And then he said, I'm going to go to Jordanville, and Jordanville is very, very solid, very solid. And Jordanville, a similar situation. Now, their actual specifics of how they handle seminary is a little different compared to most facilities because they live with the monks, the seminarians. But the bottom line is that is the only RoCor seminary in the world, and RoCor is an international organization. So there's only one in the entire planet, and that's in Jordanville. And lucky enough, one of the blessings of being on the East Coast is that I'm very close to it. 3-hour drive, So they're solid. I ain't seen no heretics hanging up on there, and they wouldn't tolerate that stuff.
Yeah, I've been there once, and it was for a conference basically about the gay issue.
Really?
And it was very based. It was good. It was, but it was a couple of years ago, and I remember visiting the crypt and like being brought to tears almost because of you can feel the sanctity of those saints down there. I
don't think I've been to the crypt. I got to do that. Oof.
Yeah. There's some uncorrupt bodies laying down there. So,
wow.
Yeah, they're not canonized yet, but I mean, it's obvious that they should be.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many saints that will never be canonized, So we can't restrict ourselves to canonization.
Yeah. So we are monitoring the OCA. We
have to. So, I did want to bring up one more point. I don't know, because you seem like you got a big program tonight, but I do want to bring this out, and you seem to be aware of it, but I didn't know this until recently. Like I talked to this one prospective seminarian. So there's this great chat, and you maybe you've seen it, Michael, but it's an interview with Metropolitan Jonah, talking about his career, and towards the later half, it's like an hour-long interview. It's on YouTube. I can send it to you if you need to. But with Metropolitan Metropolitan Jonah, excuse me. They ask him, hey, how you got kicked out of the OCA? What was the story behind that? And he gives the story behind it. And the biggest detail about that is that he reveals, hey, when you become the Metropolitan, your job is to interact with the other jurisdictions, and to guide the, first among equals, all that fun stuff. What happened when he got put in there, he started to gather his crew. Every time a Metropolitan comes in, typically how that works is he has his own staff that he hires his own crew. So when he tried to do that with the OCA, they said, oh, no, here it's a little different. We have one staff that never goes away. When we have contracts, multi-year contracts, and they're set with golden parachutes. So if you terminate them early, it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to get rid of us. So, you may have seen, as you read earlier in my comment mentioning the OCA is run by a cabal of priests. That's the cabal of priests. It's this permanent staff that the Metropolitan does not have control over, which is atypical in most jurisdictions. Now, look, it's one thing if they were permanent staff and just stick to their role, but if you can't get fired, you got a lot of power. Now, if I was in charge of that organization, and you've alluded to it, you mentioned, hey, there's bishops who play ball with this stuff, and that's absolutely true. But with the OCA is what they did is they started giving. It's like this. So how is like my friend? You ever wonder why it is when the OCA gives a public announcement, it sounds like it comes out of the mouth of some PR firm? It's because it's not the Metropolitan saying it. It's his little cabal that he can't fire who's handing him the speeches. So with Metropolitan Jonah was in office, they would hand him, and she's like, "Oh, here's your speech, boss." And then he'd look at it, and he's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, that's what we want you to say." Metropolitan Jonah's like, "No, no, 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 no." So with him, this is a big reason why he was basically removed. Was he wrote and gave his own speeches, So when BLM started rising up last year with all the race riot and all the agitation, some people might have been like, "Oh, how come the OCA is having this very strange vanilla corporate rainbow take?" Well, it's because some very corporate individuals wrote that. And that the structure of the OCA is atypical, and this is why my personal speculation is that organization, you cannot infiltrate it and remove the bad elements, because the people, it's already been quote unquote infiltrated, written into the contract with a bunch of money as a kill switch. So it's like it's that cabal. That cabal is what runs the organization. It ain't the Metropolitan. You can't get rid of the Metropolitan comes and goes, but the cabal stays there, because otherwise the OCA goes bankrupt if you remove them. So they basically tied themselves to the organization. These are the people who run it, and it's all indications, all signs point at that the people who are in the OCA who know about this are okay with it or tolerate it. Because if you don't play ball with this organization, you end up like Metropolitan Jonah. And honestly, like the way that he was ousted, it's like basically Metropolitan Jonah just said, "Look, we figured it wasn't going to work, so I decided to leave." But when you ask them OCA's case, on their account of it, they give this highfalutin story of him being negligent with his parishioners and stuff like that. And it's basically some corporate speak to like, it's like to poo-poo his name on the way out when he could have just said, "Yeah, he wasn't a good fit." That's all they had to say. But instead, it's like some story you look up, and that's just indicative of a lot of the stuff that goes on with that organization. So I'll do one parallel comparison here. Father Peter Heers has an excellent course going on right now in his Patron Orthodox Ethos. He's going over the Catacomb Saints, and there's a phase where these renovationists want to take over the church, and these renovationists are married priests. They want to take over the church, and they see the Bolsheviks tearing up the church, and they say, "It's our opportunity, baby. It's time for us to rule." And this is basically the model that the OCA is taking. And if you want some historical context on how it got this way, according to my priest, he mentions that, like, look, Metropolia, because everyone should know OCA used to be part of the Rocor. They split off. They had their own philosophy, and they split off, and they became Metropolia. When they got the Autocephalus tome, they became, I think that's when they became the OCA. Once they received that document, that's when they did a name change. But with when they split off to become the Metropolia, and they got for that tome, the guy who went for that tome, and the guy who apparently was in charge of the whole operation and the whole ethos of the OCA, before it was even called the OCA, was Alexander Schmemann. That was the guy in charge. Alexander Schmemann was not a bishop, was never a bishop, but he was the dude who was calling the shots. So it seems like this method, or this model of basically someone who's not a bishop calling the shots, open the door for people who are currently not bishops to call the shot to this day. And it's got to be noted, because a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people don't understand how the OCA is run, history with the Road Couriers, why it split off, and why you see things that are happening current this day. And I just think, again, no judgment on people, because I don't know these individuals, and we've seen news talk about this pope or this bishop and that bishop saying this thing and that thing, But bottom line is a problem with the OCA is structural in nature, because you can't have people who are priests and deacons running the show. That's not what. No one. There is a reason why the bishops have these titles of Your Grace, Your Beatitude, Your Eminence. You call the Father, and you call the bishops the fancy titles, and they don't get married because they got the responsibility. You can't have these bureaucrats running the show. Otherwise, it turns into a corporation, which is what it seemingly behaves like. But that's not to say it doesn't have grace. That's not to say that it's not canonical. But I do say that there is an air of like artificiality about it. I personally can't stand the OCA, but yeah, there's my spiel.
I think I'm gonna have to do another petition to drain the OCA swamp. We're gonna do it. We're monitoring, but for now, we're just monitoring the situation. We're monitoring the OCA.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, I don't even know if I want to cover any more news tonight. There's the let's see. We'll just hit them real brief. We can leave you on. Well, let's see. It's the screen share on.
I can see it.
All right. Federal. There's I don't know if you know anything about this. The Federal Protection of Oath Keepers Kingpin Stuart Rhodes breaks the entire Capitol insurrection lie wide open. I don't want to read the whole thing because it's quite lengthy, but basically all of Stuart Rhodes's lieutenants and the Oath Keepers are all arrested and charged for conspiring to basically commit violence in the Capitol. And when you read the text messages, they were actually.
Wow.
And but Stuart Rhodes was the one instigating it all. Basically, Fed
posting.
Yeah. And so all of these people get arrested, but not him. And he's even cited in the indictment papers as like the conspirator, but for some reason he hasn't been charged. But all of his associates have. So yeah, don't join the Oath Keepers. They're feds. It's run by a literal fed, so don't do that. I think Ray says, I remember the Oath Keepers group. Weren't they beefing with Nick Fuentes and others, calling Fuentes a Nazi? Yeah, they were. They called him a white nationalist, and Nick was like, well, they call you the same thing. He's a herder.
This reminds me of Michael Wifkoff's advice of don't join organizations, period, outside of the Orthodox Church. You know, a lot of these political activist groups, you know, these formal groups, they're just ripe for infiltration with by feds.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are okay. Like, I mean, I understand the desiring fraternal, like bonds of some sort, but definitely, for the most part, just don't join any stupid groups, especially if it's a militia, because that just means riddled with feds.
Yeah, it's and there is an irony of you saying that because there's two former Masons on this stream right now. But just go to your local Orthodox church, watch a couple of Luke Kendrat videos, and try to set up some type of men's group going on over there. Just get a men's coalition and do all the yard work that needs to be done, or any men activity.
All of us just need to move to West Virginia and build our little enclave, take over a town. I can be the mayor, and after I lose my congressional, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna win. But anyways, Daily Veracity. This basically he's pointing out that the infrastructure bill that is probably about to pass the House and then go to the Senate, bipartisan, will destroy the American suburbs forever. Because there's all of this, they always slide this, all these provisions in. It's an infrastructure bill. But what it does is it basically makes the states sign a contract. So I'll go ahead and read this. Speaker Nancy Pelosi of California recently announced that the House would not vote on the bipartisan infrastructure bill. until the Senate passes a larger set of Democratic priorities through the budget reconciliation. Biden said he agreed with the speaker, blah, blah, blah. Let me find the important part. Okay, so according to some reports, the focus of Biden's infrastructure bill is in part to address aging infrastructure across the country, which would be cool. But the massive bill also covers a vast amount of other spending, including money for diversifying neighborhoods. Sources claim that part of the plan, with only Democratic support, would change zoning laws to end single-family home neighborhoods and allow for multiple-unit affordable or low-income rental housing. The plan may call for local governments to essentially abolish suburbs by making grants contingent upon towns and counties allowing apartments in any neighborhood, including those currently zoned for only single-family homes. If certain towns want to preserve their small-town feel, they must turn down the money, hurting the towns and leading to a sizable infusion of tax dollars for Democratic-dominated cities. If the suburbs take the money, they would essentially be signing a contract to become architecturally dense like cities, likely leading to permanent Democrat control over those jurisdictions. Yeah, something similar has happened to Dubuque, Iowa, where they've had an influx of vouchers and stuff. So if you're watching this, I would actually highly encourage you to reach out to your House rep and your senator and, just tell them that this is not cool. So this infrastructure bill that they're proposing right now, you need to make sure that they know that you as their constituent will not be voting for them if they vote for this.
This is the phase of dystopian future where they're trying to get us to live in pods.
Yeah, pretty much. So, and it's they're dangling the fruit to basically turn West Virginia into a Section 8 housing state and totally destroy it.
Oh yeah.
So
they're going ham with this whole Great Reset stuff. They're going real ham.
Yeah, we can't let it happen though. We can't let it happen.
You don't want West Virginia to turn into Patterson, New Jersey, which is where I currently live. You don't want it to become this place.
Wait, you live in Patterson, bro?
I live in Patterson, New Jersey. This is where this room is. Yep, it's
oh man. You packing? You packing?
Of course not. Of course not. But
you're not allowed to in Jersey, are you?
You're basically not allowed to in Jersey. But you can even see it here. There is locally, both in Patterson and in a nearby suburb where that is one irresistible click. But in the nearby suburbs as well, like they're building new not housing, but apartment units, like grand scale, and it's not good. You mean if you recall, there was a article going around trying to gaslight readers, saying, don't blame BlackRock for buying all these properties. Blame the towns and cities and people for refusing to allow these low-income housing units to be built in their towns. But it's like a lose-lose. All they're trying to do is, because if they let those low-income housing segments be put in their towns, it ruins the real estate value of the properties there. The people are going to move out, and then the Great Reset agenda gets achieved anyway. And then BlackRock can buy these things at a lower cost. It's like either way, BlackRock's going to buy them up. They just want us to live in pods, and then when we live in pods, they'll be putting us on top of a Target or a Walmart, and then we'll be living in Walmarts and Targets.
Yeah, honestly though, places like West Virginia, we have enough natural resources that we could be self-sufficient if we just said, screw you, we're gonna be sufficient here, and we're gonna be, and I think this will happen. Honestly, some of the red states, between this and the other red line issues that I think a lot of them aren't willing to cross, like the gun thing, and a lot of this LG, like the transgender stuff, I think you might see some states start reasserting their sovereignty against the feds. So we'll see. We shall see. No more entropy chats yet. Come on, people. Come on. Ray says, Michael, have you learned to farm yet? No. But I have a valuable skill that I have learned. But I don't want to say, because the last thing I need is Antifa to show up at my work, So, but I'm doing pretty good with what I'm doing. I'm about to get my third promotion, which is about very soon going to lead to my, I guess, like final promotion, which will be a big increase for me financially. So that'll be nice. But anyways, and they know I'm doing politics too, so they're cool with it. Last story, extremely serious. It's very important. If it ever shows up on the screen. It's California correctional officer sentenced for depraved sex with inmate in view of other prisoners. The correctional officer has been sentenced to jail time after having sex with an inmate while she was on the job and in front of other prisoners, according to reports. Tina Gonzalez, 27, was busted after Fresno County Sheriff Office workers received a tip about her relationship with a prisoner who was caught with a cell phone behind bars in 2019. Shoot. Hang on. Hang on. Stupid Fox videos playing in my ear. I didn't share the audio, so you couldn't hear it. But anyways, this 27-year-old, she apparently cut a hole in her uniform so that she could have sex with an inmate. And she's not even she's actually an attractive woman. Apparently she has no remorse and smuggled drugs and alcohol for the guy. But how does this even happen? Look at her. She's how does she end up screwing an inmate in front of
a lot of ladies are attracted to hard men. It's not hard to put together, This is why the guy who gets flowers is left with nothing, and the guy who spits on her goes out with her. The guy who cheats on her, spits on her, treats her like garbage. It's like this guy's a hardened criminal.
That's crazy. Brandon says, bruh, congressmen make $174 a year. Forget your promotions. Yeah, well.
It's always good to have a backup. You can't be if someone's going to be running for Congress to actually for the right reasons, they're not going to want to do it for career purposes. If you become a career politician, that's what's going to make you into, I don't know, Mitch McConnell, you're run-of-the-mill swamp guy.
Hey, look, bro. I plan to be the America First Nancy Pelosi, okay? I'm going to be there till I'm 97. And I'm just going to be the eternal thorn in the libs side forever, okay?
Yeah, I think any effective I guess statesman has to have a normie method of income, so he can be okay, even if you force me out, I'll still be okay. It's
yeah. No, it's basically like a trade. It's not. It's something to fall back on if I need it, and I actually enjoy doing it. So
it's good. I think of I guess a good example might be diversity hire.
she was. She was a Hispanic woman.
She don't even
Let's
look
see how
Hispanic. Oh, it's the wrong kind of diversity. We need a lot less diversity these days. But what was I saying? Yes, a good example would be, I guess, like Ron Paul. That guy's a doctor. What is he? Oh, he's like a baby delivery doctor, right? That guy's been in office for a long time. He's done, I think, made a positive impact, even if he's couldn't quite get into the office because obviously the system was tilted against him. But
yeah, Rand Paul is a dentist, and so is Paul Gosar.
Yeah, so it helps a guy to have a trade, makes him a better candidate.
All right, people, come on. We will not stop the stream until we get at least one more entropy chat. We can't. It's been a fun stream, but and I gotta pay the bills. Gotta eat. I gotta go get. I've been on a Subway kick, so you gotta feed my Subway kick. So the Italian cold cuts. I love Italian cold cuts. It's just so good, with lettuce, tomato, onions, black olives, hots, maybe jalapenos, depends on the mood, and then mayonnaise and oil and vinegar. That's what I like. But anyways, all right, I think I'll wrap it up. Anyway, that's all I've got. Let's see. Any last words, Doorman, on the OCA? Because we're monitoring the OCA.
So yeah, we need to monitor the OCA. We need to keep them on good check. Yeah, I didn't get to comment on that whole situation of the priest monitoring the Groyper docs, which is just ridiculous. This does mirror some conversations I've had with David Patrick Harry. He was kind of shocked. I told him, people would consider you extreme. He's like, really? And he's like, yeah, even though he's basically just correct. I told him, you're basically just correct, but that's considered extreme these days because orthodoxy is so. Actually, it ties into your thesis here for the video. Look at that, going full circle, because orthodoxy is so foreign from the American perspective of their civil religiosity. So if you are truly orthodox, you are by the world standards extreme, and so it does bring to question what is the ethos of this priest monitoring you guys, and why doesn't he open a dialogue? There's a lot of these days there's a lot of Orthodox figures on the internet, and it's from a very specific subset of Orthodox entertainers online. I'm not going to name any names, but there's certain people who didn't fall into that category of monitorings. Guys, this is a hint. That means those people he's monitoring are the best people to listen to. So, you're already on a good foot by listening to Michael Sisco. Make sure you look at everybody as guys looking Groyper docs. That means it's just enthusiastic, virile, intense, and just what's that word? Basically charged up. We'll say charged up Orthodox guys who want to spread orthodoxy with the proper ethos and affect all spheres of life, Orthodox, the entirety of America, and do this. So that guy can monitor us all, you guys all you want, monitor us all he wants. But if you're OCA, you're automatically suspect. Maybe you should clean up your own house. Maybe you should get rid of that cabal of priests that giving orders to your bishops. Because you think everyone thinks you take orders from the bishop. You take orders from a bunch of priests who I've heard play black ops game with the bishops to make sure they are under control. They blackmail these guys just to make sure if they ever get too uppity. Because apparently having golden parachutes aren't enough. So yeah, no. Watch out, OCA. You watch out.
Well, there's no better note to end on. But if I've had priests on my show before, so I'm willing to bring on, if any priest has a problem with me, or anyone in my sphere, for instance, I can either set up a stream with you and them, or you can come talk to me. Whatever you want to do, I'm game. And if you need a blessing from your whoever, from your cabal, then go get it. I'll get my blessing. We can make it happen. So, anyways, thanks for popping in, Doorman. Thanks for the contribution, and thanks Ray for the $10 too. So everybody, have a good night. Oh, next week, I shouldn't forget to say this. Next Thursday evening, I think at 8. Big guest, Roosh V coming on the Michael Sisco show. So, anyways, have a good night. If it ever ends.